welcome to this 18th episode of Data Friday. I am your host, Jean-Georges J.G. Perrin, and it is my great pleasure today to co-present with Dhiraj Peechara. So, good morning, Dhiraj. It's really a pleasure to have you this morning, and we've known each other for a few years now, like maybe 3-4 years, and I remember we had a Spark meetup, and you were talking about your idea and your passion for data quality, and it kind of clicked because I also I'm not as passionate as you are with data quality, but it's a sensitive subject topic for me as well. So and you lived your passion. You created DataQ, and you're the CEO of DataQ. And tell me more. Okay, go ahead.
Sure. Thank you. First of all, thank you for having me on this platform, giving me an opportunity. I would love to explain what we have been doing here. I'm very excited about that. So before that, a short journey about myself, right? I have been doing primarily independent consulting as a solutions architect for various organizations on big data space. And one of the challenges I have seen at multiple places is the projects would delay considerably because the amount of time that we would allocate for testing would always surpass.
Yeah.
And projects would always go, and especially with the complexity and volume of data, the testing is not estimated right, and they don't have sufficient tools.
I agree.
So these are the challenges I've seen at multiple organizations. And that's how I built some solutions to help some of the customers. And finally, eventually, we are here with a full product.
Great. Okay. So, what problem are you going to illustrate?
Sure. Yeah. So today, let's take, although DataQ solves multiple use cases, today we will walk through the classic problem. If we take a ETL job,
yeah.
Let me start my presentation, and then I think
go ahead. Yeah, you can talk over it. That's great.
Right. So at a high level, the bottom line is lack of proper testing can result in bad data for the organizations. And that can cause a lot of loss, both time and money. So to give a simple analogy here, right? Now, if you don't give better, it's like organizations don't spend money on security until hacking happens. At which point then you want to go spend all the money.
Yeah.
So giving little better tools to developers and testers can go a long way in having the bottom line of data, improving the data accuracy. So let's take a ETL process, which is the core for all the data engineers. Now, if you look at this problem from the testers and BS point of view, let's see what are the challenges that they face and how we can reduce it substantially.
Okay.
And automate that. So that is what we are going to see today. Now, this is a classic ETL process. You have the source systems. Then you have some ETL jobs in whatever languages you have, which you put in the destination. Nothing odd. Now, this is where I'm going to show, if we break it down between the developer process and the tester process, the bottom blue box is the developer's view, and the top is the testers.
Okay.
If you take a simple ETL job, the developers produce the output.
Yeah.
And the testers have to write the same transformation, however, and compare that with what developers have produced.
Correct.
Right? And if everything matches, then they certify. Now here on this one, they do two things. One, most of the developers, they hand transform these changes they get the same FRD from the business.
Okay.
So they take handful of records and keep on applying the transformations. And for those handful of records, they validate with what developers have produced. Now, obviously, as you can see, the big problem here is they are validating less than 1% of the data.
Yeah.
If there is problem in the remaining 99% of the data, that can easily get into production or could fail the jobs in ETL jobs in production and so on.
Yeah, and then you detect that a long time after, and that's one of the problems.
Exactly. And by then the loss is huge.
Yeah.
Or some good testers write the same ETL jobs, maybe using SQL. It doesn't have to be as efficient, but still, what they produce, they still have to compare with what developers have produced. And if they find discrepancies, they have to analyze them and notify them, which is also a lot of manual work.
Yeah.
So this is where a lot of time goes for the testers and business analysts. Now, how can we automate this? That is what we are going to see.
Okay.
So I'll take a simple data to walk through this scenario so that it's easy for us to follow through.
Okay.
I have two tables. On the top is the sales data.
Yeah.
Item cost, location where it was sold, the customer name, and the customer age.
Okay.
And the bottom, for the customer, each item, there is some description, what that item is.
Okay. A classic relational table.
Exactly. Right. And okay. Now, again, this is a small mapping document that we get from the business analyst, the developers get.
Okay.
Right. We'll go through that. It's again very simple example. So we have the source table, and in this, the first case, the transformation is if it is null, change to unknown, else leave as it is.
Okay.
The second case, just trim the spaces. In the third case, we are rounding to the top 100.
Okay.
The dollar value.
Yeah.
And in the fourth case, we are removing the last name.
Okay.
And in the fifth case, we are doing a join with the item description table and adding the description. So these are the rules, which are, again, these are very small rules for the demo purpose, but we can get to as complex as possible. Now, if we go to these rules, and now developers have done their ETL jobs in however language, and let's see what testers can do.
Okay. So that's a DataQ interface.
Yes, that's a DataQ interface. Now, so we will follow through this simple use case and see how we can automate this so for testing becomes so easy every time for this approach.
Yeah.
What I'm going to do is, if you go back to this slide, if you remember, we are looking from the tester's point of view. The developers have already produced the output. We have to produce the same output from the same column mapping document and validate it.
Okay.
Okay. So I'm going to create a new job, and this is how I do that. So first, I'm going to pull in the output that is produced by the developers. So what I have done here is I have various data sources available.
Okay.
They can be Snowflake, Hadoop, whatever. And in this case, I'm picking this particular data source, which happens to be MySQL.
Okay.
And it will list me all the databases. I got this database of that.
Okay.
And then it is listing me all the tables.
Okay.
So first, I'm going to select the happy scenario, sales dev output. This is what the developers have produced.
Okay.
Then I'll take the same thing.
Marketing dev, DemoDB.
This is the input table.
Okay.
Now I'm going to pull in the comparison component from the left list of all the various components we have.
Okay.
So what's happening here is in DataQ, it's listing me, it pulls in this case, we got one table, but if I have any number of tables, it pulls in all the tables from the source and this component and gives us in the data compare. Since the names of the tables are not same, it's not auto mapping for us. We have to explicitly map them.
Makes sense.
Then it is listing me all the columns from the source and the target.
Okay. Here's a match, so that's done automatically.
Right. And if you see there's a warning sign here, it is telling us that we have not selected any ID column.
Oh, okay.
Or the comparison column to compare the two sets of data. So I'm selecting this guy and he's happy as well. Now at this point, if I go back to my column mapping document, there are various rules, and this is how the testers can apply them. So we have all these requirements.
Yep.
That's for location. I'm applying.
So that's just SQL.
Absolutely. So all the tester has to do is just write that SQL for that function for that particular column and apply here. That's just SQL.
So it's not any other language in any other thing, it's just pure SQL.
Pure SQL, exactly.
And maybe we should clarify that this is running on top of Spark. So it's Spark SQL.
Yes. So since it is running on top of Spark, it is Spark SQL, exactly. So if they use any specific syntax, which is like for SQL Server has a lot of syntax which is not compatible.
Yeah, but I mean, Spark SQL is now getting more and more like a Spark 3 as ANSI compatibility now. So I'm not worried. Just to clarify that. So it's an easy SQL transformation, and people are used to them. So.
Right. Absolutely. So what I have done here is applied the same rules as the mapping document on.
Okay.
Oh, I think I applied on the wrong side.
Sorry, I'm distracting you.
So I applied on the same side as the
other input.
Yes. Listen.
So what's also interesting is to see that you've detected what type of the columns are.
Right. Right. Okay, finally. So this is a small one-time effort, as you can see.
Yeah, and you can save this flow anyway. So
absolutely, and they can. So the one-time effort is there anywhere.
Yeah.
But what you are getting is now the developers move on, people leave the organizations, but you have the test case intact for this particular ETL job. You can go back to this test case and use case, and you can see all the rules.
Okay.
And you can tweak any rule at any point of time. So I'm going to give a name. Validate sales ETL. Save this, execute it. At which point, as you can see, the spinners are spinning at this point. And if I go back here to my flows, I will see that flow. Then you can obviously share to all the good stuff for this particular flow with all the other developers and so on.
Okay.
So, for example, I have done the same flow while this is running. Right. So let me pull to the results of that same flow here. And oh, wait one second, sorry. That's a happy scenario.
Okay, yeah, so it's just finished.
Yeah. I could have waited there. So what it is showing is that the output that is produced by the developers and testers is matching 100%. So the data is absolutely valid.
That's a good news for a Friday morning.
Absolutely. So if I go here, I can show, oops. It's all good. It's 100% match and all the numbers are showing accurate. Everybody can go happily.
Yeah.
Now, when I don't apply any one of those rules, or when actually I created another flow in which the developers have done some mistake, and let me walk through that directly. Sales table bad. So I can save some time here. So if I go here, what happened is the developers didn't do the rounding properly.
Okay.
Or they failed to do the rounding.
Yeah, and you see directly where the error is. That's pretty obvious. Yeah.
Right. And they know that this column transformation has not been done, and they can fix it. Or they can just share this with the developers and Jira, and that becomes so easy.
Okay.
Share it in your Jira. So what we have seen so far is the first approach, how the testers can automate the ETL process.
Yep.
So one thing is, it's not always, if I go back to my presentation, so 90% of the time, or maybe more than that, it is possible or achievable for testers to use this approach. There are, however, scenarios where, for example, the ETL processes are so complex, which are built over years.
Yeah.
It's not practical.
I know a few of them.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Absolutely. Yeah. So it's not practical for testers to go write the same business logic. In fact, probably there are no FRD documents. It's all embedded in the core.
Yeah.
Right. At which point So developers adopt the second approach of doing it. I hope we are not running out of time. I'll try to quicken this. So second approach is they directly go to the target and write the rules on the target.
Okay.
It's more like a negative testing. Example is if there's a lookup table, in this case, it's a very simple one, but they want to make sure every column gets a lookup value.
Yeah.
A super simple thing, but yeah, just to demonstrate the problem. Now, in which case, as I can see, I'm directly going to the target and writing the rules. Okay, and the rules could be like this. In the first case, the lookup value, the customer name cannot be null. The item cost has to be greater than 0 and less than 1,000, and so on, right?
Yeah, okay.
Very simple. Let's go back and create. Okay, there. Go. And this time we are going to pull in data quality component. And what happened here is whatever tables we selected are all the tables are listed here. I picked the first one, right? Now I go to the SQL and where I have written my SQL already.
Okay.
I'm going to give it a name. Lookup validation or item lookup validation. Added the rule. And
so you can have more than one.
Absolutely. I can keep going here. I can keep going. Now I come back here and apply my other rules. Customer name is not null. Null check.
And you can also specify a threshold. Like here you specify 100%, but you could say 50% is good enough.
Exactly.
Okay.
Instead of, yeah, sure. And I can say that item cost should be greater than 0 and less than 1,000.
Okay.
Or I can select predefined rules instead of writing the rules.
Okay.
So that the same rule is applied to multiple columns and so on. Now, sales DQ output, I save it, I execute it. And it's running. It would take a few seconds to complete. And that's completed. It took us to the results page.
Okay.
And if you go back to the results page, it is showing that the 2 rules are successful and the 2 rules are failed.
Okay.
So the SQL, that rule that we have provided is successful. So the lookup is 100% pass.
Our join is good.
Join is good. Whereas the not null is not good. We were expecting 100%, but it's only 93%.
And that's where, if you consider your data, you could actually reduce the threshold to 93%, and then it would.
Yes, and it will pass absolutely. Right. And the best thing about this is you can keep running this test or make incremental changes, and you don't have to worry about how do you test the whole changes.
Yeah. So that's so. Hey, Dhiraj, to our audience, I knew a little bit about the tool, but every time I see it, I love it more and more. So it's really impressive. And the thing is, it's as you demoed here on 2,000 records, but it's good the same speed as if it was 2 million records, right? Because you can have a cluster behind and.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, we have run some benchmark tests for Snowflake and Hadoop, comparing data validation for Hadoop for terabytes of data. And that's part of the what we are doing for one customer in Washington, D.C.
Okay, that's awesome. So
right.
I know we're running almost out of time. How do I get the tool? So how can I use it?
Yeah, it's as simple as you sign up at the website, DataQ.io.
Okay.
And one of the sales engineers will call you up and give you the link and get started. As simple as that.
Okay, so that's amazing. Okay, Dhiraj, we'll talk more soon. Okay, you're going to do a longer session for the Spark meetup in a few weeks, and but in the meanwhile, I really encourage you guys to look at that and that's DataQ, and it's from my friend Dhiraj Peechara. And I know he's super busy. He's got to run somewhere now. So thank you so much, Dhiraj, and Godspeed.
Thank you. Thank you.